Dad's silent revenge.
My wife looked me dead in the eye and said the greatest gift I could give our daughter for her wedding was my absence. She told me I was just Howard, the man who wrote the checks, while her real dad was the one who deserved to walk her down the aisle. My stepdaughter, the girl I raised for 18 years, just sat there nodding along, so I did exactly what they asked. I disappeared, but I didn't go quietly. I took my money, I took my house, and I took the entire wedding with me. When they walked into that empty kitchen expecting a celebration, all they found was a plastic table and the truth about what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. My name is Howard Pierce. I'm 58 years old, and I just retired after 35 years operating heavy equipment in construction. Cranes, bulldozers, excavators. If it moved dirt or steel, I could run it. My hands are scarred from decades of work, but those hands built a good life. I own my house free and clear, got $50,000 in savings, and run a small equipment rental business. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable. At least I was until I discovered my family was planning to steal it all. Let me tell you about Beverly. I met her when she was 10 years old, hiding behind her mother's legs in our kitchen. Her biological father, Eugene, had taken off 2 years earlier, leaving Dorothy with a stack of unpaid bills and a broken little girl who asked every night when Daddy was coming home. I wasn't looking to be anyone's replacement father, but life has a way of making you into things you never planned to be. I taught Beverly to ride a bike in our driveway, running beside her for hours until she finally found her balance. When she was 12 and broke her wrist falling off the monkey bars, I carried her to the emergency room because Dorothy was too panicked to drive. I sat through every parent-teacher conference, every soccer game, every school play where she forgot her lines. When Beverly turned 16, I bought her first car, a used Honda Civic with 80,000 miles on it. Nothing fancy, but reliable. She complained it wasn't cool enough, wanted something sportier. Dorothy sided with her, said I was being cheap, but I knew what I was doing. That Honda lasted through high school and college without a single breakdown. I taught her to check the oil, change a tire, and most importantly, never to take reliable transportation for granted. College cost me $85,000. Beverly wanted to go to a private liberal arts school to study communications. I could have sent her to state school for a quarter of that cost, but Dorothy insisted our daughter deserved the best. Our daughter, that's what Dorothy always called her when the bills came due. When Beverly brought home poor grades or got in trouble, suddenly she was Dorothy's daughter and her behavioral problems came from Eugene's side of the family. I paid for Beverly's wedding dress, $3,200 for something she'd wear once. I paid for her engagement party, her bridal shower, her bachelorette weekend in Vegas. Every time my credit card got charged, Dorothy would say, "You want Beverly to have nice memories, don't you?" What I wanted was to feel like I mattered to the girl I'd raised as my own, but somewhere along the way, I stopped being Dad and became Howard. It started when Beverly hit her teenage years, and Eugene began sending birthday cards with no return address. Suddenly, her real father became this mysterious figure she romanticized. The man who abandoned her became her hero, while the man who stayed became the guy who paid for stuff. I was sitting in my kitchen that Friday morning drinking coffee and going through the mail. Dorothy was at her yoga class, and Beverly was upstairs getting ready for her final dress fitting. The wedding was tomorrow. I'd already written checks totaling $47,000 for this circus. The caterer, the flowers, the band, the photographer. Every contract had my signature because I was funding everything. That's when I found it. Mixed in with the credit card statements was an envelope from Brennan & Associates law firm. It was addressed to Dorothy, but it had been opened and carelessly shoved back in with the bills. I pulled out the papers and felt my blood turn ice cold. Petition for dissolution of marriage was printed across the top in bold letters. Below that, division of assets, community property evaluation. My wife of 18 years had hired a divorce lawyer. According to the paperwork, she was claiming our house was worth $420,000, my business assets totaled $180,000, and our joint savings was $850,000. The lawyer's recommendation was a 50-50 split of everything. She'd walk away with over $700,000 of money I'd earned with my own hands. But here's the part that really got me. The filing date was Monday, 3 days after the wedding. She was planning to serve me divorce papers right after I finished paying for Beverly's fairy tale weekend. My hands started shaking as I kept reading. There were handwritten notes in the margins in Dorothy's neat cursive. Domestic disturbance complaint filed 10/15 with a check mark next to it. Verbal abuse documentation with witness statements from Beverly attached. They weren't just planning to divorce me, they were planning to destroy me. I remembered October 15th. Dorothy had been screaming at me about money, demanding I increase her monthly allowance from $2,000 to $3,000 so she could join some exclusive spa membership. When I said we needed to stick to our budget, she started throwing things. A coffee mug, then a picture frame, then a wine glass that shattered against the kitchen wall. I raised my voice and told her to stop acting crazy. That was it. That was my crime. I told my wife to stop throwing glassware in our kitchen. But according to the police report she filed the next day, I had been verbally abusive and created an intimidating environment. Beverly had provided a statement saying she witnessed me yelling and making her mother fear for her safety. The girl I'd raised, protected, and provided for had lied to the police to help her mother build a case against me. They'd been planning this for months, maybe years. Every argument, every disagreement, every moment of normal marital tension had been carefully documented and twisted into evidence of my unfitness as a husband. I heard footsteps on the stairs. Beverly was coming down for breakfast. I quickly shoved the papers back into the envelope and pretended to read the sports section of the newspaper. She walked into the kitchen wearing her bridesmaid dress from last night's rehearsal. Looking at her phone instead of me, "Morning, Howard," she said without looking up. She grabbed a yogurt from the refrigerator and a spoon from the drawer. She hadn't called me Dad since she was about 12 years old. For the last 16 years, I was just Howard to her. The man who wrote the checks. "Big day tomorrow," I said, watching her face for any sign of guilt or remorse. Nothing. She was scrolling through Instagram, double-tapping photos of other people's weddings. "Yeah, I'm so nervous," she said, though she looked more excited than nervous. "Mom's picking me up in 10 minutes for the final walkthrough with the wedding planner. Everything all set with the vendors?" I asked. "I think so. Leonard's parents flew in from Boston last night. They're staying at the downtown Marriott." She paused her scrolling and looked at me for the first time. "Oh, there's been a small change to the seating arrangements. Here it comes," I thought. The final insult before they serve me papers on Monday. The Brooks family, that's Leonard's parents. They're very traditional about bloodlines and family hierarchy, Beverly said, still looking at her phone. They think it would look better for photos if biological family sits at the head table. I set my coffee mug down carefully on the kitchen counter. The ceramic made a small clicking sound that seemed loud in the sudden silence. "What does that mean exactly, Beverly?" She finally looked up from her phone, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance that she had to explain something she thought was obvious. "It means my real dad, Eugene, will be walking me down the aisle and sitting with the immediate family. You'll be at table 12 with some of Leonard's work colleagues and their wives. Table 12, I knew the layout of my own backyard better than anyone. I'd spent 3 weekends moving sprinkler heads and leveling ground to accommodate the tent. Table 12 was next to the catering station, where servers would be walking back and forth with dirty plates and leftover food. It was where you put the people you had to invite but didn't really want there. Beverly," I said slowly, "I've paid $47,000 for this wedding. I've supported you for 18 years. I taught you to drive in this very driveway. I walked you to the school bus on your first day of kindergarten." She shrugged, a gesture so casual it felt like a slap. "And we appreciate all that, Howard. But this is about optics. Eugene is tall and distinguished looking. He photographs well. She gestured vaguely at my flannel shirt and work boots. "You're more comfortable in the background anyway. You've never liked being the center of attention. The center of attention, I wasn't asking to be the center of anything. I was asking to be treated like family at a wedding I was paying for in my own backyard. Where's Eugene been for the last 18 years while I was raising you?" I asked. "He's had his struggles," Beverly said, her voice taking on a defensive edge I'd heard before whenever anyone criticized her biological father. "But he's turned his life around. He's been clean for 6 months now, and he really wants to be part of this special day. Clean for 6 months. Eugene was a drug addict who disappeared when Beverly was 8 years old. He'd sent maybe 3 birthday cards in the intervening years. Never with money, always with promises he never kept. But now he was clean for 6 months, and that somehow qualified him to walk her down the aisle at the wedding I was funding. That's when Dorothy walked through the back door, returning from her yoga class. She was carrying her rolled-up mat and wearing the expensive athletic wear I'd bought her last month. She took one look at my face and Beverly's defensive posture and immediately understood what was happening. "Beverly, go wait in the car," Dorothy said. "Howard and I need to have a conversation." After Beverly left, Dorothy sat down across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals together, where I'd helped Beverly with her homework, where we'd made plans for our future that apparently only existed in my imagination. "The Brooks family has some concerns about tomorrow's ceremony." Dorothy began, her voice taking on the tone she used when she was about to ask me for money. Reasonable, patient, like she was explaining something to a child. "Let me guess," I said. "They don't want the blue-collar guy who paid for everything to be visible in their society photos." "Don't be dramatic, Howard." She reached across the table and put her hand on mine. The same hand that had signed divorce papers 3 days ago. They're very prominent people. Leonard's father is a senior partner at a prestigious Boston law firm. The governor is attending this wedding. We need to present the right image. The right image of what? Dorothy pulled her hand back. Of a family that belongs in their social circle. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Howard, you're a good man and a hard worker, but you operate heavy equipment for a living. Your hands are permanently stained with grease. Your clothes smell like diesel fuel, and you don't understand social etiquette. I looked at this woman I'd been married to for 18 years. The woman I'd supported through 3 failed business ventures, a boutique that lasted 6 months, a catering company that never got a single client, and an online jewelry store that sold exactly 0 pieces of jewelry. I'd lost $40,000 total on her entrepreneurial dreams, money that could have been my retirement cushion. So what are you saying, Dorothy? I'm saying that maybe it would be better for everyone if you just took a day trip tomorrow, went fishing or visited your brother in Portland. We'll tell people you had a work emergency with one of your rental clients. The words hit me like cold water. My own wife was disinviting me from my stepdaughter's wedding. The wedding I was paying for, in my own backyard, with my own money. You want me to disappear so Eugene can play father of the bride. It's just for one day, Howard. Beverly really wants her biological father to have this moment. Can't you understand that? After everything she's been through with the divorce and Eugene's addiction, she just wants one perfect day where she feels like she has a real family. A real family. The words cut deeper than any knife could have. After 18 years of being the only father figure in Beverly's life, I wasn't real family. I was just the guy who paid the bills while the real family took center stage. I stood up from the table. Dorothy looked relieved, probably thinking I was going to agree to her plan like I always did. Give in, write the checks, stay in the background, keep everyone happy at my own expense. You know what, Dorothy? I said, you're absolutely right. Her face brightened. I knew you'd understand. Oh, I understand perfectly. I walked to the kitchen drawer and pulled out my checkbook, the one with my name printed on every check. Let me make this crystal clear for everyone. I opened the checkbook and Dorothy watched expectantly, probably thinking I was about to write another check for last-minute wedding expenses. Instead, I took my pen and started writing VOD in big letters across every blank check in the book. What are you doing? Dorothy asked, her voice rising. Making things crystal clear, I said. I ripped out each voided check and dropped them on the kitchen table like confetti. No more checks from Howard. Eugene can pay for his daughter's wedding. Dorothy's face went from confusion to alarm to something close to panic. Howard, you can't be serious. The final payments are due today. The caterer needs $15,000. The florist wants $8,000. The band requires $6,000 before they'll set up. Sounds like Eugene's problem now, I said, heading toward the door. He's the real father, right? Time for him to act like one. Where are you going? Dorothy demanded. To make some phone calls, I said. You wanted me gone? I'm gone, but I'm taking my money with me. I drove straight to First National Bank, where I'd been a customer for 30 years. The morning rush was over, so I walked right up to the counter and asked to speak with Sarah Martinez, the branch manager. Mr. Pierce, Sarah said when she came out of her office. What can I do for you today? I pulled out the divorce papers I'd found that morning. My wife hired a lawyer and plans to serve me with divorce papers on Monday. I need to protect my assets. Sarah's expression grew serious as she scanned the documents. What do you need to do? Close the joint checking account. Transfer everything to my personal account that she's not on. Sir, that at $127,000. Are you absolutely certain about this? Dead certain, I said. She's planning to take half of everything I've worked 35 years to build. I'm not going to make it easy for her. The transfer took 20 minutes. $127,000 moved from our money to my money. I also canceled all the credit cards that had Dorothy and Beverly listed as authorized users. There's going to be some very unhappy people when these cards start declining. Sarah warned me. That's the point, I said. Next stop was my attorney's office. Gerald Stevens had handled my business incorporation and my will for the past 15 years. He was a no-nonsense guy who'd grown up in construction before going to law school. Howard, Gerald said when I walked into his office, you look like someone just told you your truck got stolen. I handed him the divorce papers. Worse, my wife's been planning to steal half my life savings. Gerald read through the documents, his jaw tightening with each page. This is bad, Howard. She's alleging domestic abuse, financial control, emotional manipulation. If this goes to court without a strong response, she could get more than half. What do I do? We fight back with everything we've got. Gerald opened his laptop. I'm going to prepare a counterfiling. We'll document every dollar you've spent supporting her and Beverly, every failed business venture you've funded, every sacrifice you've made. We'll show the court who the real victim is here. While Gerald worked on the legal strategy, I had my own moves to make. I drove to my equipment yard and started making calls to my rental customers. Word travels fast in construction, and I had guys who'd been wanting to buy the equipment they'd been renting. Jimmy, it's Howard. Remember that excavator you've been renting for 6 months? Want to buy it? Within 2 hours, I had $180,000 in purchase agreements for equipment I'd been planning to keep for another 5 years. But speed was more important than maximum profit right now. Next, I called Arthur Mills, a real estate investor who specialized in quick cash purchases. Arthur had made his money buying distressed properties and flipping them fast. Arthur, I need to sell my house today. Cash deal, close immediately. Howard, what's the rush? Your place is worth $420,000 easy in this market. Divorce situation. I need to convert real estate to liquid assets before lawyers freeze everything. Arthur was at my house within an hour. He walked through quickly, checking the foundation, the roof, the electrical panel. Everything I'd maintained perfectly for 15 years. I can offer $350,000 cash, he said. I know it's below market value, but you get speed and certainty. No inspections, no financing contingencies, no delays. Deal, I said without hesitation. By 4 p.m., I had signed papers transferring the deed and received a wire transfer for $350,000. Combined with the bank accounts and equipment sales, I now controlled over $650,000 in liquid assets that my soon-to-be ex-wife couldn't touch, but I wasn't done. The hardest part was still ahead of me. I sat in my truck in the bank parking lot and started making the calls that would turn tomorrow's fairy tale wedding into a nightmare. I began with the most expensive vendor. Exclusive catering. This is Monica. Monica, this is Howard Pierce. I need to cancel tomorrow's wedding. There was a pause. Mr. Pierce, the wedding is in 18 hours. We've already prepared most of the food. The staff is scheduled. The final payment of $15,000 is due today. Keep the $8,000 deposit, I said. Consider it a cancellation fee, but don't show up tomorrow. But sir, your family will be expecting. My family decided I'm not welcome at the wedding I'm paying for. So I stopped paying for it. The florist was next. Then the photographer, then the band. Each conversation was the same. Shocked vendors, lost deposits, canceled services. It was costing me $23,000 in deposits I'd never get back. But I was saving $24,000 in final payments. The last call was to Leonard himself. Leonard, this is Howard. There won't be a wedding tomorrow. What, Mr. Pierce? What are you talking about? Your bride and her mother decided the man paying for the wedding wasn't good enough to attend it. So the man paying for the wedding decided to stop paying. Surely we can work this out, Leonard said, panic creeping into his voice. My parents flew in from Boston. The governor is coming. This is going to be a disaster. You're right, I said. It is going to be a disaster. But it's not my disaster anymore. Eugene's the real father now. Maybe he can solve it. I hung up and sat in the silence of my truck. Tomorrow morning, Dorothy and Beverly would wake up expecting their perfect day. Instead, they'd find empty vendors, declined credit cards, and a man who was finally done being taken for granted. Saturday morning came and I wasn't there to witness the disaster firsthand, but I made sure I had eyes on the situation. Gerald had hired Norman Reed, a private investigator who specialized in documenting evidence for divorce cases. Norman parked down the street and filmed everything. According to Norman's report, the chaos started early. At 7 a.m., Dorothy's phone started ringing. The caterer wasn't showing up. By 7:30, she realized the florist wasn't coming either. By 8 a.m., every single vendor had been canceled, and she was calling me frantically. I'd blocked her number hours earlier. Beverly called Eugene in a complete panic. Eugene, the distinguished real father who was supposed to save the day, told her he had $500 in his checking account and couldn't help. He suggested maybe they could order pizza and pick up some flowers from the grocery store. Leonard's parents were staying at the downtown Marriott, expecting to attend a high society wedding with the governor of Massachusetts. Instead, they got frantic phone calls about missing caterers and financial disasters. Leonard's father, the prestigious law firm partner, was not amused. By noon, Leonard had called off the engagement. He told Beverly he couldn't marry into a family with this level of financial chaos and deception. The governor's advance team showed up at 2 p.m. to find an empty house and issued a statement that the governor's schedule had changed. Norman captured it all on video. Dorothy standing in our empty backyard screaming into her phone. Beverly in her $3,200 wedding dress crying on the front steps. Eugene looking confused and helpless, exactly like he'd looked 18 years ago when he abandoned his family. Monday morning, I was ready when Dorothy tried to serve me divorce papers. Gerald had already filed our countersuit on Friday afternoon, beating her to the courthouse by 72 hours. Our filing was a masterpiece of documentation. We included detailed financial records showing the $180,000 I'd spent on Dorothy's failed businesses, the $85,000 in Beverly's education costs, and the $47,000 in wedding expenses. We presented bank statements proving I'd been the sole income provider for 18 years, while Dorothy spent money like it was unlimited. Most importantly, we included evidence of their conspiracy. Norman had recovered deleted text messages from Beverly's phone where she and Dorothy discussed getting everything before Howard figures out the plan and making sure the divorce goes through after the wedding money is spent. The judge was not impressed with Dorothy's tactics. After reviewing all the evidence, he awarded me 75% of our combined assets due to what he called attempted financial fraud and deliberate deception. Dorothy got $200,000 and was ordered to find her own housing since I'd already legally sold our house. Beverly moved in with a friend and got a job waiting tables at a chain restaurant. Eugene disappeared again after the wedding disaster, probably realizing there was no money to be gained from playing father. Leonard married a banker's daughter from Beacon Hill 6 months later. As for me, I took my $800,000 and moved to a small coastal town in Maine. I bought a modest house with a view of the harbor and started a consulting business helping construction companies evaluate equipment purchases. I wake up every morning, drink my coffee on the deck, and watch fishing boats head out with the sunrise. Dorothy calls sometimes when her bills are due. I don't answer. Beverly sent me a text last Christmas asking for help with rent money. I deleted it without reading past the first line. Here's what I learned. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting mad or getting even. It's getting smart and getting free. They thought they could use me and discard me like a broken tool. Instead, I protected what was mine and built a better life without people who measured my worth by the size of my bank account. I spent 18 years trying to buy love and respect from people who were never going to give it to me. Now, I spend my days with people who treat me like a human being instead of an ATM, and honestly, that's worth more than any wedding could ever be. Your worth isn't measured by what you can provide for others, but by how others treat you when you stop providing. The people who truly love you will respect your boundaries. The ones who don't were never really family to begin with.